Everybody tells you your 20s are supposed to be the best years of your life. You're going to figure it out as you go. And above all else, you have time, so don't stress it too much. But what they really mean by you're going to figure it out, it's really code for saying that nobody's going to help you. And the whole narrative about you have time is what people say right before you look up and 5 years have just disappeared. Your 20s, as great as they'll be, aren't some soft landing pad where mistakes don't count. They're actually probably the most dangerous decade you'll live through, not because something bad is going to happen. I'm not wishing anything bad on anybody, but rather because nothing really does. For most people, they won't have some major rock bottom moment. They won't get this all enlightening wake up call. What really happens is you just slowly accumulate a lot of small decisions that feel like nothing when you're making them, but add up to be so detrimental later on. And the stuff that does damage isn't really obvious. It's not the partying. It's not one bad purchase. It's truly the small habits you form that feel harmless, and everybody will tell you that it's not a major deal, and more than likely the people around you will be making the same mistakes. And by the time you recognize the pattern, it's hard to break. It's not like that emo phase that you went through. This becomes the person that you're growing into long term. So with that in mind, I'm going to list 10 things that will keep you stuck in your 20s. And as a disclaimer, I'm not making this from some holier than thou point of view. I still make some of the mistakes I'm going to cover in this list. I just try not to make it my default personality or my go-to action. So without wasting any more time, let's get right into it. The first habit that will keep you stuck is doom scrolling. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, I've already heard this, you really got to think about how detrimental this is for your 20s. As someone who grew up with the internet, finding memes and dumb things to laugh about to share with my friends has always been a great pastime of mine, but I've realized that the real consequence of doom scrolling is not the funny memes or the wasted time. I mean, both of those things don't get you any further, but it's really the constant comparison you'll do with yourself to people in a much better situation than you are. I'm not trying to sound like a hater, but as someone who didn't grow up rich, it never made me feel better watching people on social media do a day in their lives where they wake up in a $5 million house, hop in a sports car at the age of 18, and make $100,000 doing a business before they can even buy a car legally. Some people say that that's motivating content, but it really makes you dislike your own life and the path that you need to go on to be successful. And it starts to warp what success actually means to you. When you're young, success means working a career you can be proud of, doing things and achieving goals that would make you and your family happy. But you realize that people who constantly doom scroll and pay attention to the phone and not real life have this very warped reality of what life is supposed to be. Instead of achieving actual goals, they view everything through a monetary lens. And if it doesn't make a large amount of money, then it's not worth pursuing. If that's how you lead your 20s, you're going to find yourself, one, very unhappy, and two, very unmotivated to wake up and get after it every single day. When you're starting off in your career, especially in the job market and how hard it is to find a career, you're not going to be making $100,000 in your first year. But just because it's not right away doesn't mean it's not worth pursuing. If you find yourself on the phone watching a person get ready in $1 million house, watching an 18-year-old close on a $5 million deal, and literally watching people spend parents' money, then it's going to make you feel like a loser no matter what you're trying to do. Doom scrolling is one of those habits that we all find ourselves doing, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I did it one time this week. But the quicker you can realize how disconnected your phone screen is from the actual world around you, the further you'll get ahead because you'll have confidence to chase and pursue a dream. And I want to emphasize, as we go on the list, pay attention to how these habits start compounding onto each other. Because the second worst habit you can have is consuming for no reason, or impulse buying as some people call it. These things don't happen in a vacuum. When you're doom scrolling, seeing somebody live a better life than you, you're also noticing the products that they're buying and subliminally trying to market to you. I mean, for a lot of the biggest influencers, it's not even subtle. All their videos will be to push you to buy something, because the real product that you're losing when you're impulse buying or doom scrolling is your time. You are young. You are allowed to make mistakes, and you do have time, but you realize that you wake up 5 years later not knowing what happened because you tried to be normal. And in this day and age, normal is not normal at all. It's a hyper-connected, hyper-consuming zombie with no actual thought of their own. And when you realize how dehumanizing consumer culture is, you will want to get as far away from it as possible. I mean, they don't even really view you as a normal person. They view you as a consumer that they can endlessly fill with products that will not fill the void that you feel in your life. And most people don't realize that they're buying to fill the void. And I know that sounds deeper than it should be. Some people might chalk up impulse buying or reckless spending to just, it releases dopamine. People like seeing a new box at their doorstep. And while that is true, it also makes you envision your dream self. And if you don't believe me, look at how people purchase cars. Probably the worst impulse buy you could ever do. People don't buy the car that they can afford. I mean, if they did that, we would all be driving Toyotas and Hondas and affordable cars. But rather, people buy the car that they can show off in. We may not be where we want to be in life, but our car is a symbol that makes us feel like we're there. And it starts this nasty habit of overspending to get such a minimal amount of pleasure in return. The sooner you learn that purchases don't equal happiness, the more free you will be and the more disciplined your mind will become just off that alone. The third worst habit you can have is bed rotting. Once again, I know I sound like a boomer with some of these points, but it's literally a fact. If you're doom scrolling all day, buying TikTok ads, then you're going to find yourself rotting in bed, not feeling any motivation to get up and chase your own dreams. Because at the end of the day, your bed is comfortable and your phone has everything to make you laugh, cry, or feel whatever emotion you want to in that second. And with the amount of options to buy now, pay later, or put things on credit, you can buy whatever to make yourself feel happy in that moment. But after so many moments of short-term dopamine, where do you find yourself? If you're anything like me, you probably find yourself at 25 realizing that you just coasted through 5 years of what are supposed to be the prime time of your life. I mean, I wasn't that bad. I was aware of what I was doing, but if I could go back and change things, I would definitely do them differently. The constantly telling myself that I'll do it tomorrow or I can just take this day off and spending the entire day in the house with no motivation to chase something bigger really did waste my time. And I can't blame anyone else but myself. And that's what you realize when you find yourself stuck. While the world does put a lot of pressure on you and make things hard to change, there is no change if you yourself do not change. And I'm not saying you constantly have to be on the move or just always feel a motivation. There's going to be days where that's just not realistic and you have to move at a speed that you can maintain. But when sleeping in and bed rotting is becoming more than just a one-off occasion and just the norm for yourself. Like I said, when people tell you that you're going to figure it out, it's code for they're not going to be there to help you. And it's a lot harder to pick up good habits than it is to maintain bad ones. And before you know it, you're sleeping in all day. You're not getting out the bed till 5 p.m. The only motivation you have to get out your bed is to put your phone on the charger. And when you reach that point, it is a lot harder to make meaningful change and it almost seems impossible. Number 4, and probably the worst habit on this list, had to throw it in the middle to keep you guys on your toes. It's the fact that you need to stop your corn habit. And I know this one is easier said than done. I mean, a lot of us were exposed to this adult material in our young ages, and this has been something that we've never been openly talked to about and have tried to conceal to our best ability. But I promise you, the longer you let this habit stick around and just kind of avoid breaking it, the more it will feel like a shackle locked to your ankle. It will get in the way of your focus, your future relationships, and just like everything else I've listed so far, it will destroy whatever motivation your body tries to muster. I mean, there's no beating around it. Catch the pun there. You're literally draining yourself of life force. I don't want to sound like some no-fap retention guy because that would just be disingenuous. But when you're going through your 20s, you're going to have to struggle. You're going to have times where you feel alone and it's going to feel like you're back against the wall. And this habit, if you don't get it under control or stop it where it's at, will feel like the only escape from your life that you have. And for the moment or the time that you're doing it or are done, you won't feel as lonely. But once all those feelings fade away, which is like 2 minutes after you're done, it all comes back and it feels even worse because now you have the added shame on top of all the other issues you're dealing with. You hear this all the time and I know it might sound cliche, but if you wouldn't do it in public, then you probably shouldn't be doing it in private. And with how much this has become basically a meme, like it's really hard to talk about seriously because people just kind of think it's something funny. Whereas I know that a lot of men specifically struggle with this, and this has defined much of their early teenage years and their adulthood because this wasn't something that a lot of people asked to be exposed to. In a world that pretty much runs off dirty material, it's hard to be clean your entire life, and it's easier to carry a bunch of shame and guilt throughout about it, then actually confront the beast in the face. But the longer you let it go on and control you, your timing, and your habits, the worse it becomes, and it almost feels like something that you need to essentially survive. Don't let cheap dopamine be the thing that gets you through your days, because that will only last so long. Number 5, and I know this one seems very random, but learn how to cook. There's a reason they call Gen Z the paper bag generation. If all your meals come out of a bag or from a restaurant, then you're doing something wrong and you're handicapping yourself for no reason. 90% of the time, the food that comes out of that gray bag is slop. There's no other word for it than just pure slop. Unless you're rich, where in that case, you probably wouldn't be listening to any of the advice that I've listed out so far. And even if you're rich, there's no reason to be spending your money and throwing it at just garbage food. You're not paying for quality. You're not paying for nutrients. You're paying for convenience. And for a lot of people, they don't need more convenience in their life. In a world where everything can be shipped to your door and you don't have to spend much time doing anything, I think you can spare the 5 to 10 minutes it takes to fry up an egg or make a sandwich. Not only will your pocketbook thank you, your body will thank you too. And I don't even think cooking is something that people are like against really, but it's one of those things that if you didn't grow up doing it, then you're probably not going to be an adult doing it. And your 20s are also going to be about breaking generational curses. So if your family didn't really cook growing up, then it's going to be your job to learn how to cook and make that a habit that you do as you grow older. You not only will save money on the grocery bills and your just food budget for the month, you'll also probably end up way healthier. Knowing what you're putting into your body and having a real choice on what you can eat, not just different flavors of slop from whatever fast food restaurant is in a 10-mile radius of you, will make you feel a lot better. Because as somebody who's done everything I've listed so far, nothing goes better when you're doom scrolling in your bed than placing a DoorDash order that's going to be there in 25 minutes. Only to receive the DoorDash order, find out the food is cold and not as good as you expected it to be, but paying 30% more than you should have because of the convenience. I mean, you don't got to learn souffle, you don't got to learn a 5-star Michelin course, but learn how to cook a piece of steak, a piece of protein, how to chop up a vegetable. Simple things to make sure that you survive and can actually make real progress in your life, because again, your 20s is about small things compounding into larger ones. If you can save money on your food budget or just learn a skill to make you survive easier, then it pays back tenfold. Number 6, and this is something that no one's gonna tell you, and the longer you do it, the more lonely you'll find yourself. You gotta break the main character delusion. In a world of selfies and having a camera in your face all the time and trying to be a content creator, like, you know, what I'm trying to do, it's easy to feel like the world revolves around you and that everybody needs to hear your opinion or take. But I promise you, people who are more open to hearing and receiving go a lot further in life and make better connections with people. You never want to be the actually guy. That person is someone that people find annoying and don't want to have conversations with, because even the most minor slip up or maybe not concrete fact will be received with some type of correction, or, well, actually it's like this. And there's nothing that kills a conversation more than a know-it-all. The world doesn't revolve around you, and it doesn't have to revolve around you. You're young. You're supposed to be moldable. You're supposed to find the things that you're comfortable with, but you're also supposed to be willing to change and explore new ideas. And I'm not even gonna lie to you, your 20s, depending on what route you take, if you have a career and you have a job and you plan on moving up, you're gonna have to kiss a little bit of ass. That's not even like me telling you to play the system. It's just the truth. If you don't know how to make people feel good about themselves or pay attention and make them feel seen, then they're not going to be willing to give you opportunity. The people that get chances and get mentors and people who want to take them under their wing is not the person jumping at the moment to correct somebody else or the one that interrupts them as they're talking. It's the person who listens very well, who's open to criticism and knows how to set their ego aside so they can actually be poured into. Arrogance is not a sign of confidence. It's not a sign of intelligence. It's usually a sign of insecurity. So the sooner that you realize that you don't need to be the main character to succeed, the better your life will be instantly. Number 7, leave those dating apps alone until you're ready. I know this makes no sense because some people are very anti-dating app, and at times I fall into that same category, but I've realized that there is success on dating apps. On some of the videos that I made, people will advocate that they found their girlfriend or even their wife on a dating app and the relationship has been great ever since they met. But I realized the difference between those people and the average dating dating app user is the fact that a lot of people are just downloading it to feel some sort of connection. Vibes are exactly what you put out and what you'll get back. If you're looking for something quick and temporary, then that's exactly what the world will give you. If your only purpose for meeting women and feeling the need to reach out is for that temporary gratification, then you're going to receive that. But it's going to come at a cost and build a nasty habit that's harder to break, where every time you find yourself lonely, you download the app, and every time you feel yourself filled with shame, you delete it. But it causes this constant cycle of feeling like you can't find connection any other way. It makes you reliant even more on your phone. Even more than the doom scrolling, you realize that your phone is not only a place of escaping into laughter, but it's also one that can bring you some connection, even if it's not meaningful. And while I know the world is a lot different than when our parents were young, and it's not just going to the county fair and finding your sweet darling, it doesn't mean that the avenues that are presented to us today should be utilized for purely quick gratification. When you're ready to use a dating app, I say do it. Don't be scared of it. But if you know your intentions and your mind is not in the right place, then don't lie to yourself just to end up being hurt more than you already are. When your time for connection comes, it will show itself. But with all the other things you're balancing in your 20s, bad love is not something that you should be actively seeking. And again, like I said, I'm not trying to come from a place that is just telling you what you shouldn't do without having experienced it. The amount of women I met on dating apps that have cursed me out by the end of our time together, or had just genuinely made me feel bad because I felt like I had lost a piece of myself dealing with whatever I had to deal with through that relationship, was not worth it. And now when you couple that with the rise in transmittable diseases and even some of them being antibiotic resistant, it's not worth the risk to your body nor your heart. Number 8, and the one that I've had to be very honest with myself about very recently, is you need to stop escaping with addiction. As somebody who prided themselves on not drinking that much and kind of staying away from party culture, I assumed I was doing everything right until I got really honest with myself. I wasn't daily drinking, I didn't vape nicotine, and I stayed away from pretty much everything else, but I did find myself partaking in weed smoke every single day. While some people see this as like not an issue and will go to bat for how good it is and how it has no side effects, that's not true for me. I realized above all, the weed wasn't detrimental to my body, but it was a form of escapism that made me kind of wait to use it. I've talked about how I set all these kind of pointless rules, like waiting till the end of the day or only doing it every other day, and that made every moment that I wasn't doing it feel like I was just counting down the clock until I was. Not only does this set up a bad pattern in your brain where you can't really enjoy anything unless you're off of the product, you literally can't focus until you have it in your system. And then you start telling yourself these lies that, well, I actually do better when I'm on it. I focus better when I'm on it. And for the early part of this channel, I was to the point that I felt like I couldn't sit down and record unless I was off of the za. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of embarrassing to admit, especially because I didn't start partaking until way later than most people. Like, I didn't start till 21, and I felt like I had a good grasp on it for the most part, but that's kind of how these habits start. You start it with good intentions and you maintain it for a while, and then something happens in your life. For me, it was unemployment and having to find a new direction in my life. And while I'm happy about where I'm at, it really did take a lot of mental effort to get to this point, and taking the easy route by getting fried and just forgetting my problems felt like an easier thing to do than actually face the issues posed in front of me. And trust me, the longer you put off what you need to do, the more critical it actually becomes. And instead of having the time that you would have, you realize that you're actually racing against the clock to fix things that weren't even that difficult in the past. So don't chase your distractions with even more addictions. You'll save yourself time in the long run, and you'll thank yourself above anything else. Number 9, and this should be self-explanatory, but stop gambling. With so many ways to gamble, I know telling you to stop is not the thing that's going to get you to stop, but just name one person you know in your actual life that has gotten rich off of gambling. I know a few friends who have gotten big paydays, but usually once you average everything out, they end up losing the same amount that they make. And this is also one of those very taboo things that have just become kind of a joke that everyone makes. It's like the picture of the guy who's about to strike diamonds, but they stop gambling. Or when people say the only bad form of gambling is when you stop. And those are probably the most dangerous people you got to watch out for, because they'll talk you off the cliff if you let them. Gambling can be fun, and I think in moderation or with control, it can can be done responsibly. Not everyone who places a bet is an addict, but there is a very thin line between placing a bet just to have fun and placing a bet to pay your rent. And with how bad affordability and prices are nowadays, your money will go further compounding in a high yield savings or being put in a better place than a slot machine. And this is one of the habits that if you have not started it yet, try to stay as far away from it as possible. Just like other addictions, you know how other people react, but you'll never know how you react. And some things are better left untouched. It's like when your parents told you not to touch the burning hot stove, but you end up touching it anyway because you want to know how hot it actually is. I've done my fair share of gambling. I've put down a couple parlays, and it feels really good to win, and it feels really bad to lose. Mind you, I never bet any real big money. I've had a friend put over $600 on a game. I mean, just this past weekend, he put over $600 on a soccer game for the World Cup, and the whole time he's watching the game, he can't even enjoy it because he knows he has $600 riding on whoever wins. And spoiler alert, he lost his $600, which is just funny because he was telling me that he was up so much money and he's been on a winning streak, and this one bet basically sent him back down to even. And as they say, the house always wins. You placing a bet that you think is going to hit or doing it in a way that seems different is probably not different. You're one of a couple million people that are making the same bet, and at the end of the day, they would never let you place a bet that they knew they couldn't recoup on later. This is one of the things where you need to be responsible and constantly watch yourself to make sure it doesn't spiral out of control. And if you don't think you can manage that, then I say stay away from it completely. Number 10, the absolute worst habit you can have in your 20s is the habit of not thinking that you're going to make it to 30. And what I mean by this is not preparing or taking yourself seriously. It's no secret the world is in a very weird spot right now. Things are evolving at a lightning speed, and the things that were true just a few years ago have no valid weight today. But something that will always hold true, whether it be today, whether it be centuries ago in the medieval times, or 100 years from now in the cyber world. If you don't feel like you're worth investing into, if you don't feel like you're worth actually taking time to understand, then you're always going to be confused, lost, and left behind. Anyone that's ever reached success will tell you that it comes with endless understanding of self, knowing where you excel, why you excel, and investing into the future that you want. And when you look at all the things that I've listed here, they're all about investing in yourself. You can doom scroll all day. You can impulse buy until your credit card declines. You can sleep in until the sun goes down. You can have endless pleasure through your screen, and those things will fade away. And when they do, you'll be left with a hollowed out, very depraved version of yourself. I know life gets hard, and I know these habits don't start on purpose. That's exactly why they're the most dangerous. They happen in the absence of hope. When you feel like it's not going to get any better, or that nobody is showing you the attention that you need, or the path is a lot more rocky than you expected, then you chase the things that comfort you in the moment. And that once bright-eyed kid that lived inside of you has become this kind of decrepit closet of hopes and dreams that don't really feel like they need to be chased. This can partly be offset by having a great group of people around you. I'm lucky to have my sister, my mom, and the friends that I have. But at the end of the day, when that door closes and when the thoughts are quiet, the only person you're left alone with is yourself. And with the rate that we're losing people to self-inflicted pain, the best habit you can have with yourself is dealing with your emotions, dealing with your feelings, and understanding that it's not to be downplayed. Because if you downplay it today, then the storm that comes tomorrow is way harder to deal with. I come from a family that never taught me how to deal with these things, and I had to actively find resources and coping mechanisms to figure out what my mind is actually trying to say or do. Because while it may seem drastic or the answer is always the worst one possible, you just have to find out how to speak with yourself, how to actually express the thoughts that you're going through. And when you do that, you unlock a new part of you, a more rational, understanding version that is okay with struggle and setback. That's not to say it gets easier, but the way you view things is how you deal with them. And if you view things in the worst possible scenario, then your solutions are going to be just that. Whereas if you know there's a brighter tomorrow and there is a sun over the horizon, then you will stick it out longer to find what you need. And in your 20s, it's not about being the best or the smartest or the most prepared. It's about being the person that can get knocked down 10 times and stand up 11. I know that sounds corny, and I'm not trying to be some type of motivational speaker, but your 20s are not a race. It's really an endurance competition. Everyone will tell you it gets easier in your 30s, and it does, I think. think I'm about to enter that time, and I will say I'm a lot more calm now than I was at 20, but the things that make me calm now started in my 20s. If I ignored all the red flags and the warning signs that life threw at me, I don't know if I would be as prepared for the next chapter in my life. Do I regret some of my actions? Of course. Who doesn't? But am I proud of the changes that I was able to make throughout the years? Of course. And in an effort to make sure you don't have to deal with this blindly in the dark, I want to pass on some of the knowledge that I grasped over the years, and I hope it can serve you in a beneficial way. Your 20s are dangerous, they're unknown, they're confusing, and they're going to be a struggle. But if you take care of these things in your 20s and address them head on, then you set yourself a springboard to achieve so much more later in life. Don't let your future self pay for the consequences of your present. As much as people try to downplay your ability, you have a lot to achieve, and you need to believe that. If you found this list helpful, let me know down below in the comments what resonated with you the most. I do read the comments. And if I missed anything, what were some of the things that you would have thrown on this list? If you haven't already, like and subscribe to join the channel. Every subscription feeds my dog an extra dog treat. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Until next time.